Okay, let's start. So, hi everybody that's following me. I'm Dimitris Malas. I'm a journalist covering digital issues and digital technologies at CNN Greece, which is a prominent news website in Greece, obviously. So, and thanks Despina for the invitation to host this very interesting panel that has a very intriguing title: Unravelling the Tech Disruptive Effect in Career Development. Meaning that what we're going to try in the next 50 minutes is to talk with some very prominent guests about how digital technologies and the emerging of digital technologies, especially not only in the COVID-19 era, but also before that, have changed career development. With us, we have Armand. Sorry, just I'm sorry for that, but just sometimes we got a little mixed up. We have Armand Gilles Leblois. Have I said that right, Armand?
Yeah, Armand Leblois is fine.
Armand Leblois. Okay, I usually have the full name, but Armand is regional manager for Networking Academy for Regional Manager for Networking Academy, Europe, North, South, Germany, UK, and Ireland at Cisco. That's the whole Europe.
Pretty much, yes. It's the whole Europe, yes.
Okay. And you are based where, Armand? Because I hear the sounds outside. That's why. It wasn't me.
I am based in Gallia, in France.
Gallia. So you speak, what, you trying to speak Greek?
Well, they say that Ελλάδα Gallia si magia. So I can say Ελλάδα is the defteri choromas. So, for us French people, Greece is a very important part of our history and our life. So yes, it's normal that we speak a little.
Yeah, okay. But the audience here is more global, but also we have a lot of people from Greece. And we also have two prominent guests from Greece. Okay, we have Theofilos Vasiliadis. He's the CEO of Karriera.gr. I think that everyone that he's in Greece has more or less gone to Karriera.gr in order to, find a job or post a job or a job request or something like that. Am I right, Theofilos, about that?
I suppose so, yeah, and or find content that is related. But yeah, indeed, like people, at least knowledge workers, definitely are aware of what we do.
Okay, and also we have Thanos Lubroukos. Thanos, I hope that I said the name right. Okay, he's from Randstad.
Yes, you're right, Dimitri.
Okay, where he's the team leader and technology specialty. You should explain a little bit what this title means, because I got a little bit confused, to be honest, about that. But everybody knows Randstad, which is one of the major companies worldwide in order, how to everything that has to do with career development. You have to explain a little bit, Thanos, about what exactly is your title meaning. Anyway.
Okay, it will be my pleasure, Dimitri, and thank you very much. Should I talk about me right now? Or later?
No. Okay, later. Okay, let's start. Okay, because we have 50 minutes and we're going to try to do our best and cover as many subjects as we can. So I will start with that. What is different in today's employment environment? Meaning, what has changed in the last 15 years? Perhaps that we entered a digital era, that now we have all, the millennials, the generation of that. And also, I want also a comment from everybody from you of how much that change has accelerated during the last 2 years, more or less, during the COVID era. Okay, so Armand, would start with you. So.
Sure. So I would say I would sum it up to 3 words that I think are kind of define the changes that we've seen and that we've seen maybe accelerate in a certain way during COVID, but that were very much present before. The first word is flexibility. One of the things that the up and coming generation of professionals is looking for is flexibility. And, behind that word flexibility, you also have the concept of work-life balance, right? I think the interpretation of what is considered to be a fulfilling work-life balance is different today than it was even 10 years ago when I started my professional career. The second thing I would say is purpose. Now, one of the things that we see more and more is the expectation of the up and coming generations is that the jobs that they begin with, or the companies that they work for, have a stated and strong purpose statement, right? And usually tied to making the world a better place. Now, that can be in terms of green, and that can be in terms of empowering people through digital solutions, you name it. But there is now a kind of desire for purpose. And the last thing I'll say from the employer side of things, one of the things that we see now that I think existed before, but is very much at the forefront of a lot of employers' minds, is that entire concept of soft skills. Whereas before, 2005, 2006, 2007, you would see specific competencies and talents that the people were looking for, specific technical gifts, right, to hire and compose teams of absolute geniuses. Now there's a big emphasis on the concept of community and being able to work together. So I would say that the soft skills element is very, very important.
Okay, Thanos.
Yes, I could also add 3 pillars in our conversation. And first of all is the change within the generations. We have new generations coming. They have different aspects. They have different expectations from their jobs and their employers. So everything is different in this term. Also, we have technology. As we all know, technology has changed our lives, and with the old stuff, with the social media and with the platforms and with the devices that are always available for everyone, we can work from home. So the whole scenery, let's say, has changed in our lives. And then, as Arman said, flexibility. We need to be very flexible. We need to be very fast because things are changing. And unfortunately, we don't have the time to realize how fast this change is.
Oh, okay, but I thought that every, generations changes all the time. So, but this thing has more, yeah, Armand is laughing, but I think with with the merging of digital technologies, things change pretty fast. But anyway, Theophilus, is there something that you want to add here?
Yeah,
I think
actually,
you have a different
I
perspective also.
I do completely, actually, and I want to be a little bit provocative here. European Union has about 230 million labor force. The conversation that we used to have, where I typically have in panels like that, actually affects about 5% of it, because we're talking about purpose, we're talking about impact, we're talking about mobility and flexibility, but 95% of this 230 million works in retail, in production, in manufacturing, in at the land, in agriculture, in hospitality, education, all like transportation, logistics. All these people, they're completely unaffected by what we are discussing on our nice bubble in our technology conferences. So the reason why I'm saying that is that if you ask the average manufacturing worker, would you take a pay cut to go and work for a company with a bigger impact? They would laugh. This is a great conversation for a 30 years old senior developer that gets 4,000 as a first salary per month. So they can live just fine with 3,000 to go work for a company with a great impact. So I think that we're missing the point on the greater scale of things by this kind of bubbly conversation. It's highly important for knowledge workers, no questions. I do agree with both Armand and Thanos on the kind of change of the paradigm for knowledge workers. I still have significant doubts if you ask this question. Like, people would say, we want to work at companies with purpose. My question is, would you take a 30% pay cut? Even in these salaries? Definitely, though, not for 90% of the people that they are living paycheck to paycheck.
But Theophilus, just to follow up on your comment a little bit, isn't that my personal perception is that digital technologies have changed, more than the knowledge workers, because the merging of digital technologies have changed, other sectors as well. So in that sense, in order to work, for example, in the tourism sector nowadays, you also need to have some soft skills, or better soft skills than in the past.
True. You had a question at the notes that you sent us. how's technology, digital technology change career development. So
yeah,
there is
I was trying to make
there.
a bridge.
Right.
I was trying to make a bridge. Okay,
there is
so go on.
There is a point there regarding mostly using technology platforms, which is a completely different case from writing code or having actually hardcore digital skills. So there is no question that even for a seasoned employee of a manufacturing company, they will eventually need to use some kind of technology platform. But the level of skill set that you need there is something that is relatively easy to learn. So I still feel that if we don't realize, at least in the European Union, I'm not so sure about the data in the US, but in the European Union, if we don't realize that for most of the world, these conversations are affecting them marginally, if not at all, we're going to fall in the same trap, of people saying that the world is talking. Remember all this populism that grew due to people saying that we're left out? I think this conversation about the future of work is still leaving out 90% of the population. So we need to make sure that we see how can technology actually change the lives of these people down the line, rather than just focus on the type of knowledge workers that they would be fine anyway.
Okay, Thanos, the same question. Okay, how digital technologies, and hearing what Theophilus was saying, what's your opinion there?
Theophilus was right. Theophilus, I agree with you in general terms, but for very specific reasons, I focus mainly on the generations coming next. And they have already built very important digital skills. So they will be using technology for everything, and they will be requiring technology to be part of their job. So this has changed the whole scenery, I think. And at the same time, I am thinking about my parents. They are around 60 years old. They are not aware of digital things. They don't have any digital skill. So if they had to work within an environment that this was required, it would be very difficult from them to take it over. So,
Dimitri, you're on mute. Dimitri, you're on mute.
Yeah, that's the most common comment the last 2 years. I think you're unmute yourself, or you're muted, or something like that.
Time magazine last year had "you are on mute" as a phrase of the year.
That was the phrase of the year. They were right, the colleagues at Time. Anyway, Thanos, or what you were saying that the new generations need technology in their work environment. That's fine. But also, the question is how technology is changing how your career develops. Meaning, what Theophilus was talking about, platforms, is really important. But also, my personal opinion, and I want to comment on that, is that also there is a change. Digital technologies and how digital is changing everything so fast, because changes come faster than in the past. Also changes the way that people go to work, or they are choosing their professions, or they're choosing where to work or when to work. And also agree with Theophilus saying that perhaps, okay, money and the payment is also very important, and it's a factor, and perhaps it's more important than working in a sustainable company or somewhere that you make impact. So I don't know, Thanos, if you can comment on that, and then we'll go to Armand about that.
Yes, first of all, I agree that the compensation package is almost most of the times the #1 priority for people that are seeking a career change. And at the same time, I think that yes, digital skills are here, and it's easier for people to get them if they are trained, for example, how to handle some CRM system, or how to set some work from home environment. I think that this has come, and we have gained it. So we have to go to the next step. I mean, how we are going to use it for getting more from our work. This is my concern.
Okay, that's fine. Armand, what's your comment on the question? And what you're also hearing.
I want to thank Theo for reframing.
We cannot hear you, Armand.
Armand, you have a problem with the microphone, perhaps.
Okay, one second.
Still, yeah.
That
was also another phrase of the year. Okay, have a problem with the camera, the connection, or the microphone.
So first of all, I want to thank Teofilo for reframing the discussion the way that he did, because I think it is actually an essential question that we need to be asking as Europeans, and in particular as Europeans who are looking to build a Europe tomorrow that can survive the test of time. When I look around at, in the Cisco Networking Academy today in the European Union is roughly 360,000 students a year. And when I look around that, the profiles could not be more different. The reality is when we look at the European Recovery Package, for example, different countries, Greece is a terrific example, are being asked to utilize this package to accelerate the digitization of their public services, to accelerate the digitization of their small and medium enterprises. So in the city that I live in part-time and love the most in Greece, which is called Volos, little manufacturers of furniture and things like that, who before used to sell to the Volos market, maybe sometimes to Larissa. Now they're going to open up, right? They're going to want to sell to Bulgaria. They're going to want to sell to other places. What does that mean? That means that they have an online presence. That means cybersecurity. That means protecting data. And so that means that even the average worker in an SME, whether it's tourism or other industry, even agriculture, for example, is kind of bound by the necessity to develop these digital skills and to really become empowered by these digital skills. Greece is a terrific example of a country that's leveraged digital skills to empower agriculture. There are some terrific SMEs coming out of Greece today that are an inspiration worldwide. But I would say that, to echo a little bit what Teofilos had said, and you're absolutely right, Teofilo, we can't limit it to the understanding of the person who's going to have that 300, 400,000 euro a year job, right? What does it mean when we boil it down to the periferia somewhere? What does it mean for the average municipal worker? Do they need to have digital skills? If they don't, how does it impact them? And I think that's a question, and that's a debate that needs to happen also at a state level. But one of the very forgotten actors that I hope we'll get to in this discussion is vocational schooling. And I think it's a terrific opportunity today for vocational schooling to make the conversation more inclusive.
Stay on that. Okay. When we're talking about skills, what you are saying is that almost all professions need digital skills at this point if you're working in an SME company, or perhaps you don't. There are some jobs that you don't need digital skills.
I would say that if you're a tour boat guide, it's probably better that you know your way around the pagasiticos than knowing cybersecurity. However, I would also argue that if you are an SME today that looks to leverage public funding, in particular in Europe, to accelerate your business, to develop your business, you will need to have a baseline of digital skills and a digital understanding. It is just the reality. And even in, let's say, the more mature countries, we look at France, we look at Germany, we're looking at tens of thousands of workers, particularly, for example, in the automotive industry, that are staring down the barrel of a seismic shift in the way that industry is actually going to operate. These people need to have basic digital understanding to be able to stay competitive. And a lot of them who are going to have to move to another function or another, occupation or sector, my conviction is that a minimum baseline of digital upskilling is necessary. And in the future, to be honest with you, as we look at how public services are becoming more and more digitized, it's just a basic way to stay connected to the state as a citizen. And that's why there's the big conversation of the haves and the have-nots, because those who are not connected are penalized. And it's unfortunate, and it's something that we have to address.
So, yeah, and let's not try to make a digital divide gap. Okay, fine with that. Okay, Thanos and Theophilos, what are the skills that companies are looking for? Theophilos, let's start with you. Because you also see what companies are asking for, right? So give us a hint of what they're looking for at this point. Is it true, for example, that everybody's looking for, digital skills or soft skills, or it's not?
I'll switch to the context of the people that I suppose would be the audience in this conversation. So I'll go back to knowledge workers, which I think is more relevant to this context. Yeah, it's a no-brainer that digital skills on every aspect is important. So I want to go on a couple of things that they are probably a little bit more
Provocative. Okay.
Yeah, and not necessarily provocative, but not so common. So I think that there are two main category of issues that people are asking. It's not so easy to explain it because it's a borderline between a cliche and something that's really important. The one component is being able to decide without all the data. You can name it like adaptability or understanding volatility and uncertainty, all these kind of things. I think that this is something that we see a lot. It's a massive need. The world is moving so fast, and obviously the pandemic showcased this in the most extreme situation. I mean, think about the last couple of weeks. We thought we were out, and we're back in. Then something else might come. So this is happening so fast that it's impossible to have a way of strategizing and thinking from day-to-day stuff to long-term decisions with all the data. So people will have to learn how to live with this, how to adapt on this, and make decisions even without being able to rely on data. Long term, if you have all the data, you'll always make the right decisions. But companies are looking for people that they can be spot on and they can adapt and they can do stuff immediately. And the second part,
adaptation is one skill that is needed and is asking for, right?
Navigating through uncertainty and being able to make decisions without all the data needed. So this is one part. And the second, what I am saying is that focus is a new genius. I feel that we're stepping into an epidemic of distraction. Productivity for knowledge workers is down to, I don't think that we actually work more than like 20% of our day. The rest of the day we're disrupted from beeps in our several devices, from other screens that things are happening and are competing for our attention. So I feel that people that will manage to focus and produce actually work throughout the day would look like unbelievable geniuses in the next couple of years. So these two skills, I think it's really interesting to.
The last one that you mentioned, which is really interesting because I have a 17-year-old daughter, and what I see to her, and I see to her a lot of her friends, is that she cannot focus. Okay, yeah. She has a problem with focus, and then I started to talk to think about myself, and also I found myself that I'm also always distracted. Usually, I'm more productive, very early in the morning or very early at night in the evening because there's no distraction there. But okay, that's so that would be a skill, but that's a skill that you cannot learn somewhere, or you cannot, I don't know, develop. You can.
I'm 100% sure that you can develop. There are people talking about it more and more. This whole concept of deep work is something that is emerging quite fast. I feel that the biggest problem is that learning, and Armand would be the best to speak about this in this panel, but learning is kind of combined with focus. So in order to learn, if you are completely unfocused, it's very difficult to be focused to learn how to be focused. So it's a paradox, but that's the case. I feel that we need to figure out a way on doing it because we're stepping in an era that productivity will just nosedive.
Okay, we'll come back to that because it was really interesting, and I wonder, but also I want Thanos. What's your perception? What do you see? What are the skills that companies are looking for?
I will tell you, and thank you very much for this question. It's a very good opportunity for me to explain what I am doing, my job.
Yeah, okay.
I am responsible for a team of consultants within Randstad that handle technology positions on behalf of our clients, mainly technology companies. So we evaluate candidates, mainly developers, and then suggest them to our clients in order for their vacancies to be filled. So I am within the market. I talk with companies and with professionals, with candidates, and what I get, especially during the last 2 years, is that the soft skills have gained the center of gravity. I am afraid that a very good CV, very good hard skills are not enough for some professional to get their dream job, let's say. So companies are asking for soft skills for, let's say, good personality, good
Okay,
manners, professionalism, accountability from people.
and also how to communicate with people, how to adapt, as Theophilus
Yes,
was
and be
saying, is
flexible.
be flexible. Is focus something? I'm really interested in what Theophilus said about focusing. Okay, Armand is laughing. We will come to you about that. But Thanos also, is it something that you see that it's trying
It
to
happens
find people that
everywhere.
can focus? Okay.
This that we are currently describing happens everywhere, and even when we work from home, we never we never have a limit. We work all day, almost 24 hours.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing, and I also have that problem as well. I'm trying to find a solution for myself. So, Armand, coming to you, okay, because Theophilus was right about that. In order to learn, you have to focus. So, people that are coming at Networking Academy, do they focus? And how can you focus? Okay, it's also something with all the social media, all the email, all the the messages from Slack, Teams, everything. Okay, I need an answer for myself as well. That's why.
So, I don't know if I have the universal answer of how to focus in today's world, but I do know that Francine Katsudas, who's our vice president of corporate affairs, she essentially on Mondays, for example, Monday all the way through to 4 p.m. is blocked off in her agenda. No meetings, no emails, nothing. She uses that space solely to write, to ideate, to read, to inspire herself. No one can actually reach out to this person during that time. And I think in today's world, it's becoming more and more important to have these moments to kind of shut everything off. And most importantly, begin to provoke that intellectual curiosity again. One of the things that in Theophilus' comment that I think is also subjacent to it is because we're being blasted all the time by this disruption, we're stopping to be intellectually curious because everything's coming to us at all times, bings, bangs, emails, info, whatever. So we're not actually looking for anything, right? And one of the things that we're seeing now in the Networking Academy, to be honest with you, Dimitri, one of the reasons why, well, one of the things that has always been, let's say, the trademark of the Networking Academy is that we specialize in professional certification courses, right? These courses range from 30 to 70 to 210 hours of learning, right? And so in today's age, right, it is often, and particularly with the younger generations, it's seen as quite intimidating. People are saying, well, hold on a second. If I look at other vendors, who are offering MOOCs of like 15 hours, in 15 hours, I'm good at digital marketing. Why would I want to do 210 hours to become a professional certified person in cybersecurity? And so there's a big question about, I don't want to say attention span because that's too reductive. I think it's about now the intimidation of the time commitment. A lot of people just don't think that the time commitment sometimes is worth it, which is, a challenge. And the last thing I would say is what we have noticed also in the past 6-7 years is that certain courses that were being taught at a secondary or a university level are now having to go up because the level of the students coming up through the system no longer prepares them for that amount of focus required and that amount of dedication required. And so, in fact, we're having to put some of these courses closer to, let's say, the big diploma moment, aka the university or the end of the vocational schooling track, rather than earlier in the secondary schooling courses where it was before. And so that's an interesting evolution, which I think speaks to this kind of, I don't want to say focus issue, but focus challenge for sure.
So what you're saying is that we have to change our educational system?
I would say, I don't think we have to change the educational system. What I would say is, for example, there are very, very strong educational systems. Right now, if you look, if we take the example of Europe, right, whether it's in France or in Greece, the EPAL system in Greece, we have very strong vocational tracks. What happened is that most of these vocational schools have always been considered as, oh, well, I didn't manage to do this, so I'm going to go do a vocational school. In fact, the vocational schooling and the hands-on application of knowledge that is associated with vocational education now is better aligned to learners' expectations than it ever has been before. So I would say that the traditional schooling system, even though now there's more desire for flexibility and certain students want to go faster and people don't want to do the 4-year degree, et cetera, let's leave that to a side for a minute. I would say that we do have the infrastructure required. what I would say is missing, and this is a classic thing, so Teofilo and Thanos are probably going to roll their eyes or shake their head, but what is missing is a stronger dialogue with the guys who are going to be receiving these people, aka the employers, and the people who are responsible to getting them all the way through the door, aka the educators. And in Europe in particular, we have this sometime a wall that we need to climb over to start a conversation that's going to provide a more holistic experience.
Theophilus and Thanos, do you agree with that?
Something? Yes, may I add something, Dimitri? It's about the focus that we discussed earlier. I have some recipe, and it had worked with my team. Whenever they are not able to focus and they have to deliver, I instruct them to just switch off from everything, from chat, from emails, from phones, everything, block their calendars, and just work and be available only for emergencies. And this works always.
Oh, okay, on that, wait a minute.
No.
Yeah, okay, you have to say no. Okay, yeah, but you know something, I will ask Theophilus, because your title is Chief Executive Officer. So you are the head of a company, Theophilus. Someone comes to you and say, I will, block everything for the next 6 hours, okay, in order to focus. Will you agree on that?
Yeah, so I'll answer on this, but I also want to go back after the first answer. I want to go back on the previous subject because I think it's
yeah, of course. We're going back to the previous subject.
Look, I'm a freak with this subject, so not only I'm okay with it, I'm actually
encouraging it.
Our people to I don't have any notification, nothing beeps on my phone. No message. The only thing that actually rings is if somebody actually calls me on the phone, and not always. I sometimes put that on mute. Otherwise, nothing beeps. No messages, no SMS, no messenger, none of these things. Also, like we use Slack, I don't have notifications because I want to control my own schedule. Many people, it's a spot-on question because many people that reports to me, they are telling me, so are you telling me it's okay if I don't get back to you when you ask me something? And I'm 100% yes, because if you are giving control of your schedule to other people, then you're never going to deliver. I call it a professional goldfish, right? You just answer to the last thing that somebody told you in the last 30 seconds. So it's impossible to be able to deliver whatever whatever I'm paying you to do, actually, if at every 5 seconds, you just respond to something else that somebody else wanted. So I feel, going back on what Thanos said, I think that I would go as far, and this is what I do with my schedule. Unfortunately, I haven't managed to convince everybody on this, is I'm blocking slots for everything, like 20-minute slots, 25-minute slots for every component of the job that they do. You know what? Actually, I think that one of the biggest problems on managers today is that we don't really prioritize. We don't spend time. We use the word procrastination as if it's something so bad, while in a world with massive potential priorities, you need to spend this time to actually prioritize, right? There is this very interesting phrase that from a book that I consider like super important. It's called Essentialism. And the phrase is that the word priority in the English language didn't have a plural until about 40 years ago. So, which makes sense. Like, it's a Greek word, by the way, proteriota, which means the first thing you need to do. You can't say, whenever I go to a presentation, I hear somebody saying, these are our top 10 priorities. I'm like, what are you saying? How can you have top 10 priorities? Like, that completely beats the purpose of priority, right? So anyway, if you don't mind, if I just do a quick comment on the education subject.
On the education, that was my next subject also. But Thanos was mentioning focus, and I wanted also to go back to educational because it's also very important, and also because in order, to have, we have to prepare the next generation. Perhaps, I don't know if my generation, I'm 48 years old, if my generation have lost the train or something like that. But okay, the next generation, we have to focus a little bit more on them and to provide them with the right tools in order to, be productive or, whatever in this era. So Theophilus.
Let's help them.
Okay.
So I hope we haven't missed the train. I'm part of the same generation as you, Dimitri.
I also hope the same, but sometimes I think that I have missed the train because I
Right.
have so many priorities, as you said.
In the tech world, there has been a revolution in project management, which is this whole idea around agile and Scrum and like going away from the concept of waterfall, where you have a very long-term plan that one thing should happen after each other, to the concept of agile. Education is so far from that. It's a complete other side of the spectrum, because the whole educational journey is you start from 4 years old, and then you have a extremely analytical plan for the next at least 20 something years of your life regarding of what are you going to learn and the way that you're going to learn. So I'm laughing when I hear today's context, the conversation of we need to link universities with the job market. Because if you think about it, let's say that in every market in the world, every country in the world, there is a, Harry Potter magic stick that you would say that we build the ideal curriculum for every university. These people, in the best case, are going to be impactful in the job market in 6 to 7 years. In the best case scenario, assuming that they go in a startup and they get a position with decision making day one, and they're not just roasting coffees for their bosses.
Managers.
Right? So in this case, I'm not saying that it's not good to do that as well, but being agile on the needs of today, and there are the tools out there, right? We need to. I'll tell you a simple thing, and I'll close with that. I didn't finish the university. I was at the Athens University of Business, and I dropped out to start a business. I have a commitment for the past more than a decade that every year I spend at least 10 days at a very high-end business school to do some kind of executive course. Ivy League stuff. And it's expensive, much more expensive than if I actually went and do an MBA. The reason why I do that is because I'm thinking that the investment of time and money of going every year for 10 days to shut down for everybody else, have the time that I think Thanos mentioned before, like clean, or I'm not sure who mentioned it, clean thinking time, space for everything else, in an educational environment that you get all this stimulation, mental stimulation. I believe that this investment on prolonging it throughout the whole range of my life, it's way more impactful than go and do an MBA that most probably by the time that I finish it, last year's issues were irrelevant anymore.
So what you're saying is that it's more important for someone who wants to develop his or her career is to, invest time and money in order to upskill himself or herself all the time. And now we have the tools, the technology tools, and that's how technology can help in order to do that. Because you can, Theophilus, you can attend an Ivy League school or a high class, even if it's, around the globe because of the technology, right? So more or less.
And you know what? Don't even go that far. 10 euros per month, an Audible subscription, 30 euros per month, like Coursera or Udemy or LinkedIn Learning or something like that. I actually, if you ask me, do I want somebody that went to a business school for an MBA 5 years ago, or if I want somebody that every month downloads and listens to one business book, a couple of podcasts, and follows some kind of relevant curriculum to a online learning platform, definitely I go for the latter.
Okay, Thanos, you wanted to add something to that. I don't know.
I'm seeing my perspective is very specific since I have both my personal. I am currently an undergraduate student at the Philosophical School of Athens. So as a hobby, I mean, but I can see how the young students act and about their abilities and about the way that they see things and work and life in general. And at the same time, I see people through my work about their expectations, their motivation, and blah, blah, blah. I think that the market, the companies need people that are always available to learn, to be trained, to be very open to everything new that comes. This is the key for the whole market. We don't want old school minds. We want people with very open minds.
In order to upskill themselves all the time. So,
All the
Armand,
time. All the time.
all the time. Armand, what's your perception? You started the conversation about the educational system, so you have to close it a little bit, perhaps.
Guilty as charged.
No, that was a nice conversation, though.
But to be honest with you, I couldn't agree more with what Teofilo was saying. I think, you know, and it's mentioned a lot now in a lot of these conferences, the concept of lifelong learning, right? The ability, and that goes back to the question of flexibility. It just goes back to that question of flexibility. And I think Teofilo is also right. You know, we don't want, I don't think it's useful to completely question the whole traditional educational system, but to put into question whether or not that 24-year sequential commitment, as has been done since time immemorial, is still relevant to be able to create the talent that's required today and tomorrow. I think that is a very much open debate. And that's why empowering programs that are, for example, based on specific skills or micro-credentials, maybe not necessarily related to the prestigious universities that we all know, but related to people who know how to teach and who know and who have the experience, those are just as important. And I think rather than shy away from it, in particular in Europe, where, you know, public funding is so important to creating new educational tracks, European countries and member states should be really looking into pouring more investment and research and development into creating these tracks, sometimes with actors that have never been really associated with the traditional educational sector, to put it that way. I think that there are opportunities now throughout Europe, and the ed tech sector is a great demonstration. It has multiplied at a rate in the past 3 years that we would have never imagined. And why is that? It's because there's a demand for it. People want it. And if people want it, it's because they also perceive that it's working, right? So that means that somewhere along the line, there is a conversation already happening about, you know, let's focus on specific skills, or let's focus on doing things differently.
Dimitri, if I may add a very quick point here.
Yeah.
We are, as our generation, as you mentioned before, will eventually become parents of students, which most of us are not yet. So at least my kids are smaller, but I think most of us have kids that are now entering the phase of this education that we're talking about. The fact that our generation, I suppose, will be more willing to accept non-traditional education forms. While my joke is that my mother, who is generally a very open-minded person, a school teacher, by the way, I was like 10 years after we started the company, and the company was doing great and everything. And like we did an interview at a TV channel regarding our career and success, and they had a profile of my family. So they did an interview with my mom, and she said, "You know what? I still want him to finish the university." So, you know, it's a definition.
I was sure that your mother, every
Of
Greek
course.
mother would say that.
Of course. So, which, by the way, it was a definition of the sunk cost bias, right? What I studied was completely irrelevant, had no value. So let's spend more time on something that has no value for me, right? So, but as parents, I hope we're going to be more willing to accept this kind of non-traditional education. I think that this is where we're going to see a massive switch on the appetite of these young people to go and follow a different path on education.
I will add the personal view on that, because as I said, my daughter is 70 years old. So, okay, for those that are following us and they are from Greece, know that she's at the last year of her high school, so means that she's trying to enter to the university. Okay, and she's very anxious. Okay, I have to get into the university, and I'm trying to tell her that it doesn't matter which faculty you're going to follow. Okay, it's good to be in the university. You'll get some very good base. You want to study economics, fine, go to an economics faculty perhaps, but don't be, focus on that. And that's what you're going to do in your future. You're going to change 2 or 3 times perhaps of what your profession will be. Okay,
Way more.
You need the base, You need the basis, perhaps. Okay, fine with that, but it will do what you are going to do afterwards. What you're going to learn, what your courses will be, will make you what you're going to be. That's what I say to her. But I totally agree with Theophilus about that. We as parents, and that's perhaps our job as this generation, have to change our mindset about what learning means. Okay, what skills means. Okay. Okay, one last question. We have 6 minutes, if I'm right, and otherwise Despina will say to me otherwise. Okay, is there enough talent available? Okay, that's a tricky question. So Armando, will start with you.
And it's always great to close the circle. So if I go back to what Teofilo had done by broadening the conversation, the answer is of course no, because out of the 230 million, how many of them are really ready for all the transformations that are coming in their respective sectors, whether they see them coming or not? Not that many. So the answer in that sense would be no. I think that to touch on what we just bounced off of, I think that the fact that we haven't, in Europe at least, accelerated the acceptance of alternative learning paths has meant that there is still a deficiency. If I take one verticality in which we work, if I just focus on the digital skills, right, for a second, one thing that is very clear is that in terms of cybersecurity, there is a clear lack of professionals and professional capacity in the market. And that's in every single country. For every single sector, all of the companies need, and you can see it in France and Greece, everywhere. So I'd say there's a dual challenge, is preparing with the right base digital skills, or maybe semi-advanced digital skills, those sectors that are going to need it to transform. And for pushing the real, let's say, tech development and boom in Europe, yes, you are missing very specific verticalities, in particular cybersecurity.
Okay, Thanos.
I would say, Dimitri, that it depends on how the term talent is defined.
Okay.
I think that there's a lot of people out there, but they are not in the talent stage yet. So we have to find some way, the companies, the universities, the market, every stakeholder, in order to get them into the talent stage. In other words, for them to be trained.
Oh, okay. Theophilus?
On top of what Thanos said, I would add also the individuals themselves. So I think that we need to step in an era where people would take part of the ownership of their education, apart from the state and the companies and the governments and the universities, whatever, but people themselves, at least as we move to the later stages of our career, people need to step up on their own as well and search for knowledge resources. But the quick answer on is there talent, I would say definitely not. I mean, there is. I can tell you, we do everything from CEO selection, headhunting to manufacturing workers. There is no company in no industry, in no size, in no location that says, you know what, we're okay. We have the people that we need, which was the case we had during the crisis, right? It was an employer market. Now the fact that the term candidate market is a massive understatement. So I feel that this is for the whole of the European Union, probably the whole globe, but definitely for the European Union, it's a massive bomb, time bomb at every effort for growth, because we really have a massive gap between what skills are needed and what skills are there in the market.
Okay, and coming back to an issue that we're saying before, what should we do about that? How we're going to, to change that gap that you are saying, Theophilus? I totally agree with you. And I think Thanos and Armando are also agreeing with you. But what should we do?
Look, reskilling and upskilling in every aspect, maybe by the companies or by people or by platforms or by initiatives like what Armand is running. We do similar stuff. I'm pretty sure Thanos would be doing, Randstad would be doing similar things as well. I think this is the only way. I do think that the core would be understanding the skills and it should be a change of like the matching mechanism of jobs and people are based on two components, the job description and the resume, which are completely outdated. The resume was invented by Leonardo da Vinci's workshop when he was asking for people that they come for an internship to write down where did they work in the past. And since then, it's the same thing. Just where did you work in the past? And the job description is again the same thing. So we need to go a little bit deeper, understanding what are the skills in both sides, what are the skills needed, and what are the skills that somebody has, figure out the gaps, and then continuously provide opportunities to educate and refill these empty slots of skills here and there.
Okay, Thanos, what's your opinion about that? What do we do?
We have to be flexible and give opportunities to people.
Okay, and Armand? Okay, sorry. Armand, the last one from you.
I would agree with what Thanos and Theofilos had said, and I, especially what Thanos just said, flexibility and education, both for the people, but also for employers. Employers won't know what skills are required until they can understand how they can even leverage technology to improve their business. So there's also a lot of work, in particular in the SME space, to be done to educate businesses on how they can leverage technology and the skills that will be required to do so.
Okay. Armand, Thanos, and Theofilos, thanks very much. I think it was a really interesting conversation. I hope everybody liked it. Also the participants here in the panel, but also everyone that was following us and viewing us. Thanks very much, and hope to do it next year as well, but in a different way. Okay, thanks very much.